Redditors who live in holiday destinations, what's your most ridiculous damn tourist moment? Living in Cornwall. UK sucks from May to September. Traffic is ridiculous. If you want to go anywhere you need to leave at least an hour for traffic. Roads are for driving on, not for walking on, especially when there is a friggin' pavement for you. I don't know where in the world it's okay to walk in front of a car that is in motion, but you see tourists, adults with their children, walk straight in front of a moving car, more so in the smaller seaside towns, and give you the death stare for daring to drive on the road. Worst I've seen though was at Portreath Beach last summer. The tide was coming in and there was this bloke with his kids rock pooling. Saw that the water was getting close but instead kept looking in the rock pools with his young children. My so had to tell him that he was about to get cut off by the water if he didn't get off the rocks. Use some common sense. If you wouldn't do it at home, don't do it on holiday. When I was a teenager, I worked at an airboat rental dock Alligator Park near the Everglades. We'd get a tour bus full of foreigners and Yankees coming in from Miami every couple of days during snowbad season. Had a fucking guy ask, "Hey, are we allowed to swim in the water?" while he was standing in front of a 14-foot stuffed gator flanked by 4 6-foot water moccasin skins. We'd also get people who'd complain about the heat and the bugs. Like, holy fucking shit, you just came to the largest wetland in the country. What exactly were you expecting? My favorite was, "Can you turn down the fan? My children don't like the noise." Then don't sign up to take a ride on a boat that's propelled by a giant fucking propeller, you stupid kraut bitch. God, I hate tourists. Currently live in India, Sri Lanka. White people look at foreigners walking barefoot everywhere. Like Christ. I get you're on your big Indian adventure, but put on some shoes. Have you seen how much shit is on the ground? Coastal Maine checking in, people lose their shit over lobsters. And shell out TNS of money for anything with a lobster on it. Cheap shot glass? A cheap shot glass with a lobster stuck on it? I'll give you $7.75 for it. Lollipop? Whatever. Lollipop shaped like a lobster. Definitely worth $5. Better get one for each kid back home. Normal pullover hoodie? Boring. Hoodie with a motherfucking lobster embroidered on it at $50 a piece? Oh my god, just take my money. Not a specific tourist destination. But I'm always amused by Europeans who can't comprehend how big Canada is. I'll be in Niagara or Toronto. And they'll ask for directions to Whistler. You're gonna want to go west for a long time. Like an hour? 2 hours? Double quote. Try a week. When my family was in Scotland, we met a family planning to travel to the US for a week. We asked where they were visiting and they planned to start in New York and drive across the country to Los Angeles, hitting all the major sites in between. Let me reiterate. They planned to be in the US for a week. We tried and failed to convince them this was not going to work. I lived in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland for a while. And on my bus commute home, I overheard an American woman trying to figure out if it was the correct bus to get her to the village where I lived. But she didn't know Italian. And was holding up the line. So, just to be nice, I offered to translate for her. And solved her problem. She didn't say thank you and sat down for the ride. When we arrived, we started walking up the hill from the bus station next to each other. And I asked, "So, where are you from? And why are you visiting my tiny village?" She responded, "I don't talk to strangers," and sped up. I just laughed at her and replied, "What? Are you a 7-year-old little girl? I just helped you on the bus back there. And now you're being rude to me?" No response. New York City. Post 9/11. Walking past the ruins of the World Trade Center and some middle-aged women tourists are chatting and laughing and posing with the ruins of the WTC behind them for a group shot. I worked there and was lucky not to be in the building when it happened. I was just so infuriated that I yelled out, "It's not fucking Disneyland," and they lost their smiles. Have some decorum. Tourists. I am an expat who lives in Amsterdam. Getting stopped for directions is pretty common in my area. But the best was the American accented lady who stopped me for directions very loudly and clearly. Directions were given, as well as thanks from the lady, who proceeded to say, by the way, your English is great, with the tone one reserves for small children and or mental patients. Thanks. I responded. I'm American. Double quote. The best is that even Dutch people understand perfect English most of the time. I went there for a weekend a couple of years ago not knowing a word of Dutch, and yet there was basically no language barrier at all. My only difficulty was discovering that the trams don't stop unless you hit one of those buttons on the wall. Live in a ski town adjacent to Yellowstone National Park. People have asked, at what elevation do the deer turn into elk? Where do the Muggles go in the summer? Double quote. My favorite was when I worked at a lodge right in front of the Tetons during wildfire season. Can't you guys turn off the smoke? It's ruining my view, and we paid way too much for this vacation and I can't even see the mountains. Yes, lady. It's all one big TV screen in front of our hotel. I live near the city of Wells in Somerset, famous for its lovely cathedral. Often you see tourists walking back to the coach muttering it's not a very big cathedral, and then you realize, from the direction they've walked, that they've actually been looking at St. Cuthbert's Church at the bottom of the city, instead of the cathedral at the top. Philadelphia is not small. All those landmarks you want to see? The Art Museum, the Liberty Bell, the Love Statue, Market Street, South Street, the Macy's store where Wanamaker was, Independence Hall, Pat and Jenna's Shitty's cheesesteaks. They have miles in between each other. You will not be able to walk that shit in a day. Also, Rocky wasn't real and that was a 20-mile montage that Sylvester Stallone ran. Good luck. New Orleans checking in. I suppose it's not the worst thing ever, but the elevator in the parking garage I use for work had clearly been peed in since yesterday. Also, during Mardi Gras, the garage management hangs up "please don't pee in the lobby" signs. Sigh. I live in one of the most boring states in America, but every year more and more people keep coming down for our beaches and tax-free shopping. No, I will not give you 3 gallons of free water ice so you can throw your daughter's birthday party in our tiny store. Get your 20 kids off my counters and out of my spoon cup. I don't care if the ice cream place on the boardwalk gave you a free milkshake. I hate tourists. Don't even get me started on the driving. I don't live in a holiday destination as much as a retiree destination. From October through May the traffic is fucking terrible. On my way to work this morning, I was cut off no less than 6 times in just over a mile by some old guy. Handicap placard hanging from the rear view mirror. Out of state plates. No clue as to where he was going or how to maintain a fucking lane. I'm in New Hampshire and every autumn people travel here to see the foliage. The colors can be spectacular sometimes, so I understand why people want to see them. But some leaf peepers drive recklessly. They'll drive 40 miles per hour in a 70 mile per hour zone. They'll suddenly stop if they see something they like. And the worst is when people will pull over on the side of the highway and walk around taking pictures. There are plenty of places up north that were developed for tourists and they offer great views. Stop putting people in danger by unnecessarily driving slow or stopping on the highway. BTW, even though most of us enjoy the sight of the leaves changing, we'll still talk shit about you for traveling to look at leaves. Me and my girlfriend live in a ski resort in Canada. The best ones we've seen so far. Crazy Asians running up to black bears to try and get pictures with them. I've seen an American guy attack a vending machine because it wouldn't take his goddamn American dollars. My girlfriend worked in a hotel and a guest leave a note saying thank you for providing the baby black bears out the back of the hotel for our kids to play with. Tourists managing to drive their cars through the pedestrianized village center and parking wherever the fuck they please. I live near Niagara Falls, and it seems like every time I go there are a couple people attempting to sit on, hang on, or even get past the guardrails for a better photo opportunity. IDK if they just don't realize how fast the water is actually moving or what. But I've had a panic attack for them every time I've seen this. Former Floridian who worked at Margaritaville in Key West. It was an absolute cesspool of idiocy. There would be people who would get off the cruise ships, always Carnival, and ask what country they were in and refuse to believe that KW was in the US. There were always new and crazy varieties of drunken nonsense. Public sex. Lighting off fireworks in the middle of Duval Street on an average day. And more often than you'd think. Robbing a bank and then going and sitting down at the bar for a beer. I live close to the Mall of America. And I hardly ever go there because of all the tourists. Some of them even bring their luggage to the mall with them. They want to take pictures of everything. So you have to always keep watch to make sure you're not photobombing someone. Then there's the whole lots of people from different countries bringing some sickness with them that I'm not immune to. It's not terrible. But it's a breeding ground for new illnesses and bad colds. I'm not saying that those from out of the country are all sick or anything. Just that different countries have different sicknesses that not everyone is used to. Because they haven't been to the mall before. They're slow walkers and take up the entire hallway so we locals can't get to the shop we want to. It sounds like I'm some old curmudgeon. But on slower days, the mall can be quite nice. Great place to look for a gift. As there's so many stores there. Great place to go walking in the morning. And lots of good people watching. It's just the busy days or holiday season that make me avoid the place like the plague. Down at the beach. See some very pasty tourists. Probably from Iowa or Kansas or somewhere in the middle of a cornfield. They are completely confused about waves. Like. They're standing ankle deep a few feet from the shore. A tiny wave ebbs up. They stagger back and yell something like wow. Or OOOPS. Dot. Wave goes away. They inch forward again. Mind you, these weren't even waves. You could make bigger flows in your bathtub. And yet these people were completely astounded by the concept. Pumped gas in high school in a decently popular lake community. In the summertime everyone would stop for directions. I once had a couple say they were looking for a popular city in Delaware. They saw a sign for a town with the same name. Had to explain that they were literally 200 miles away and to just plug it into their GPS. They then got gas and argued with me cause they wanted to pump it on their own. I said no. And they called the police. 5-0 came, my uncle BTW, and told them that they were wasting his time. Guy argued and my uncle saw a pipe in their car. Found weed in car and arrested him. It was Saturday and he couldn't get out until Monday. Pretty funny shit. TL. Doctor, use your GPS. If an NJ, let the people pump your gas. And don't leave your pipe out in the car. I live in the Dominican Republic. This time of year is crazy with drunken tourists. I went to the grocery store in town, which was packed. And on my way back, saw a guy laying in the middle of the road. No one seemed concerned. And people were just swerving around him. I wasn't sure if he'd gotten hit. Or what has going on. As I get closer, he stands up. And I see he has a bottle of rum in each hand. He takes a swig. Yells WOOOHOOO. Bounces off my car. And then stumbles off the road. I shit you not. 2 days later. At night, I went out to party a little. My buddy was driving my car. And he came inches from running over a different guy. Passed out in the same damn spot. Only this time, a couple guys ran out and drug him off the road. And he had a bottle of rum in each hand. WTF. Boston here. While I appreciate the fact that some visitors really do understand that if they're planning on staying downtown and only intend to visit downtown, no car is necessary. I wish more visitors would take the time to familiarize themselves with how public transportation actually works. Please don't ask the vehicle operators for directions. Please don't board the bus or train while people are getting off. It's not a good idea to surf by standing and not holding onto a rail. Please remove your gigantic backpack that doubles the amount of space you're taking up on a seriously crowded bus or train. And for the love of all that is good and true in the world, please either walk up the escalator or keep to the right so others can pass you. People say Bostonians are unfriendly. Which is so not true. We just want to get where we are going with minimal interruption. We understand that you aren't super experienced with public transportation. Just understand that when you fly home, another person who is also inexperienced is coming to take your place. Okay, here are a few for Australia. 1. Swim between the flags. 2. Don't jump off that into the water. Yes, locals are doing it, but they've been doing it since they were 10. 3. Wear proper shoes if you're going for a bush walk. Wear the right footwear. 4. You didn't just become a 4WD expert. Maybe don't drive there. 5. If you see a warning sign, follow it. Saw some people dip their kids into water at a beach which is notorious for jellyfish. Everyone else is wearing a stringer suit, except the 5-year-olds. Also, don't freaking fish there. There's a no fishing sign near my place. It's not to be a buzzkill. It's because the land near the water was used to produce Agent Orange. Those fish will kill you. Slowly. I find it super annoying when I see people parked on the side of the road trying to lure the bears closer to their cars with food. Even worse when we pull up and warn them not to and their response is chill out bro. It's only a bear. Also, when people just decide to run up to baby deer and bother it. Its mom is nearby and will go crazy. There's a reason why there are so many warning signs to not bother the wild creatures and to keep your distance. Oh, and littering. Take your damn food wrapper and put it in a trash can. Asshole. This is not only the animal's home but it's mine too, so show some respect. I work at an beach, and people always complain about the seaweed that washes up. And they believe me when I say that there's a seaweed filter in the jetty, which is a formation of huge rocks jetting out into the ocean to collect sand on one side, and that it was broken and it, instead of sucking the seaweed in, it's shooting it out, and the part that would fix it comes from Japan and it's going to be fixed in 3 weeks. Tourists believe this every time. Lived in DC and now in downtown Miami, so I've gotten used to tourists and don't really mind them. One incident does still stick in my craw. 8:30 am. Japan Circle Station. I need to put 20 cents on my fare card. An entire troop of Boy Scouts are at all of the machines trying to figure them out like it's some sort of complicated puzzle. They were spread out throughout the entire room so that there wasn't a single open machine. I almost killed children that day. If you go to DC and are going to ride the metro and don't want to piss off locals. 1. If you have a big group, don't go during rush hour. 2. If you can't figure out the machines, just use one. 3. Stand on the goddamn right on the escalator. 4. Let people off before you get on. 5. Don't talk to me. Not necessarily a holiday destination, but I worked in a wildlife rehab park inside a national park in Bolivia that is quite popular. On more than one occasion I was out walking private trails with our resident puma and I had tourists run through the barbed wire fences and keep out signs to get closer to her. Literally was only my quick reflexes that saved at least 5 people from death or serious injury. Some lady parked her car in front of our house, took out bunch of art supplies, and started painting a canvas of one of the old outbuildings. My place is on a scenic byway, so we see lots of summer tourists. But that was different. I mean, the house is right there. She could have maybe walked up and said hi or something first. We also frequently get tourists stopping in the road during the summer to take photos of the deer and elk in the backyard apple trees. We wave from the back porch. Grew up in a college town that had not one, but 2 colleges. Well, it was a JC but amounted to the same thing. Year before I graduated high school. The town is listed in Playboy's top 10 hottest cities. Go to sign up for classes at the JC and can't get any of my classes because douches from as far away as Maine, this is in California, are signing up for those classes. And let's not forget how bad the surf spots get in Septoct when everybody thinks they can surf. The spots get overcrowded and the cooks make the surf more dangerous. Just paddle over there and grab those shit waves while you learn to stand up. It's been over 15 years and I'm still salty as fuck. Had a group of American girls come into the university shop I was working at. They were over for a sport tournament I think and were staying in the dorms. One of them asks if she can use a traveler's check to pay for her item. Snack food and some trinkets. About you a Q20. Okay, says the manager, and the girls pull out traveler's checks that are in dollars, not sterling. They then proceed to throw a massive hissy fit as you said we could use them. It had apparently not occurred to the girls, their parents or any of their chaperones that England and America had different currencies. Edit to add, these were not young girls, they were in the 16-18 age group. I live in a beach town just north of San Diego. So during the summers it's flooded with tourists. A Chinese family came into my restaurant, bypassing the 30-minute wait we had and sitting at a dirty table. But that's a different story, and asked me if I knew how the traffic would be going north because they wanted to go to San Francisco for the afternoon. They were flabbergasted when I told them that would take at least 6-8 hours. But I thought it was only 3 cities up the coast. California is fucking big, people. When I was 14, I worked for the Parks Commission in Niagara Falls. I've been asked a lot of dumb tourist questions during my time there. But there's 2 that really take the cake. Does the Maid of the Mist ride up the falls? Asked by a grown man. I could understand a 5-year-old child with no understanding of physics. But seriously, no adult should ever ask that question. Which falls belongs to what country? Asked by a large Texan. I could tell by the accent and the huge belt buckle. I told him that the Horse Show Falls was in Canada and the American and Bridal Veil Falls were in the US. No. He shouts back to me. The larger one belongs to the US because everything in the US is bigger. Okay, I squeaked out. He must have been looking for a fight. I live in a very rural, historic colonial area of New England. Every fall we get hordes of leaf peepers. That's slang for people from the city, New York, Boston, etc. Who come up north to look at all the pretty colors as the trees change. My town has one of the longest, oldest covered bridges in the country. It's still in use for road traffic and is one of the only bridges over the Connecticut for a few miles. The majority of leaf peepers assume because the bridge is old, it's a historical landmark and is open for exploration. So many times I'll try to cross that bridge only to stop before a group of 5-6 people freaking out because they just assumed it's for foot traffic. These same types of people, when they try to then cross that bridge with their cars after learning that's what it's for, will still almost cause accidents. It's an ancient wooden structure with minimal lighting and very narrow lanes. Tourists get nervous driving so close to the walls, so they drive down the middle and get stuck when confronted with oncoming traffic. TLDR. Historical structures that are still in common use bewilder and terrify people not familiar with this concept. Also, tourists will assume anything with a historical placard that isn't fenced off is fair game to climb all over.